Before you skip this video, let me warn you. This courtroom case starts with an $18,000 loan, but ends with a shocking confession that leaves everyone speechless. A successful businessman claims the money was a gift, while the woman who helped build his company says she was betrayed. As explosive evidence, secret voice recordings, and emotional testimony unfold, Judge Judy uncovers the truth in a way no one expected. Stay until the very end, because the final verdict will completely change everything. Stop scrolling right now because what happened inside this courtroom left everyone completely speechless. By the end of this case, one shocking piece of evidence would leave the entire courtroom in stunned silence. The courtroom was packed from wall to wall as people waited for another unforgettable case. Some whispered quietly to one another, while others sat patiently, wondering what kind of dispute they were about to witness. Cameras were ready, the audience was silent, and every eye turned toward the courtroom entrance. As Judge Judy entered, everyone immediately stood. Her calm but commanding presence filled the room. She took her seat behind the bench, adjusted the papers in front of her, and looked across the courtroom with a sharp expression that had become famous for exposing the truth. The bailiff called the case. Emily Carter versus Daniel Brooks. A young woman named Emily stepped forward. She looked nervous, gripping a thick folder filled with papers, receipts, and printed messages. It was obvious she had spent months preparing for this moment. Across the courtroom stood Daniel Brooks, dressed in an expensive suit with a confident smile. He folded his arms and avoided looking directly at Emily, as though pretending she wasn't even there. Judge Judy glanced at both of them before speaking. "Miss Carter, tell me why you're here today." Emily took a slow, deep breath before answering. "Your Honor, about 3 years ago, Daniel wanted to start his own construction company. He told me he had a great business plan but didn't have enough money to get started. I believed in him because we were close friends at the time. I trusted him completely. So I loaned him $18,000. She paused for a moment before continuing. He promised he would repay every penny as soon as the business became successful. But once his company started making money, he stopped answering my phone calls, ignored my messages, and acted like the loan never existed." Judge Judy turned toward Daniel. "Is that true?" Daniel immediately shook his head. "No, Judge. She's leaving out an important part. That money wasn't a loan. It was a gift. She wanted to help me because we were dating." Judge Judy slowly raised one eyebrow. "A gift? $18,000? That's an incredibly generous gift." Soft laughter spread throughout the courtroom. Emily quickly opened her folder. "No, Your Honor. It was never a gift. I brought proof." Judge Judy nodded. "Good. I like proof. Let's see it." Emily handed several documents to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge. The first document showed a bank transfer of $10,000. The second showed another transfer of $8,000 just 2 weeks later. Judge Judy carefully examined both records. "So, these transfers came directly from your bank account?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And Mr. Brooks received every dollar?" "Yes." Judge Judy looked toward Daniel. "No argument there?" Daniel quietly replied, "No." Emily then revealed something even more powerful. "I also have text messages and a voice recording." The courtroom instantly became quiet. Judge Judy looked interested. "A voice recording?" Emily nodded. "It was recorded during one of our business meetings." The recording began playing through the courtroom speakers. Daniel's voice echoed across the room. "Emily, thank you so much. I promise I'll pay everything back once the business starts making money. I won't forget what you've done for me." The recording ended. The silence inside the courtroom was almost uncomfortable. Judge Judy slowly looked at Daniel. "That doesn't sound like someone accepting a gift." Daniel shifted nervously. "I only said that because she wanted reassurance." Judge Judy leaned forward. "So you made promises you never intended to keep?" Daniel hesitated. I don't remember exactly." Judge Judy interrupted immediately. "Oh, I think you remember perfectly. You're simply hoping I don't." The audience burst into laughter. But Emily wasn't finished. She placed another stack of papers on the evidence table. There are more than 40 text messages discussing repayment. Judge Judy carefully read through several pages. One message read, "Business is doing well. I'll start sending monthly payments next month." Another said, "Please give me a little more time. I'll make things right." Judge Judy looked up. "Mr. Brooks, if this money was truly a gift, why were you discussing monthly repayment schedules for nearly a year?" Daniel stared at the floor. He didn't answer. Several seconds passed. Judge Judy smiled slightly. "Silence is sometimes the loudest answer." The audience nodded quietly. Just when it looked like Emily had completely proven her case, Daniel's attorney suddenly stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce additional evidence. The courtroom instantly became tense again. The attorney placed several photographs on the judge's desk. The pictures showed Emily and Daniel smiling together during vacations, birthday dinners, and romantic evenings. Our position, the attorney explained, is that these photos prove they were in a serious relationship. The money was given out of love, not as a business loan. Emily immediately shook her head. Yes, we dated briefly. But dating someone doesn't erase a financial agreement. Judge Judy answered, without hesitation. Exactly. People in relationships loan money to each other every day. Romance doesn't cancel contracts. The audience nodded in agreement. Judge Judy then asked another question. Mr. Brooks, after receiving this money, how successful did your company become? Daniel quietly answered, about $400,000 in profit. A loud gasp swept across the courtroom. Judge Judy looked directly at him. So your business earned nearly $500,000, yet somehow you couldn't repay $18,000? Daniel began explaining rising costs, unexpected expenses, and difficult financial decisions. Judge Judy wasn't convinced. I've heard excuses for decades, Mr. Brooks. Yours isn't unique. The audience laughed once again. Then, just when everyone believed Emily had already won, Daniel revealed one final surprise. He claimed Emily had posted negative online reviews about his business, costing him thousands of dollars in lost customers. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Judy turned toward Emily. Did you post those reviews? Emily slowly nodded. Yes, but only after he ignored me for almost 2 years. Judge Judy folded her hands and looked thoughtfully at both parties. Interesting. The entire courtroom held its breath. Would Emily's actions change everything? Or would Daniel still be forced to repay every dollar? The answer was only moments away. The courtroom fell completely silent as Judge Judy reviewed every document one final time. She carefully arranged the papers on her desk, reading each bank record, every text message, and the transcript of the voice recording. No one in the courtroom dared to speak. Even the audience leaned forward in anticipation, knowing the final decision was only moments away. Judge Judy looked up, first at Emily, whose hands were trembling with nervousness, then at Daniel, who tried to remain calm but couldn't hide the concern on his face. After several long seconds, Judge Judy finally broke the silence. Mr. Brooks, she said firmly, this case is actually very simple. Daniel immediately sat up in his chair. His attorney straightened his tie, hoping the judge had found something that would work in their favor. Judge Judy continued. You accepted $18,000 from Miss Carter. I have bank records proving every transfer. I have dozens of text messages discussing repayment. And most importantly, I heard your own voice promising to pay every dollar back once your business became successful. Daniel slowly lowered his head. There is no misunderstanding here, Judge Judy continued. The evidence is not confusing. In fact, it's overwhelming. Several members of the audience quietly nodded. Daniel's attorney stood one last time. Your Honor, while we understand the evidence, Ms. Carter admitted that she posted several negative online reviews about my client's company. Those reviews caused serious damage to his business and reputation. Judge Judy immediately interrupted. Counselor, that's an entirely different legal issue. She looked directly at Daniel. If Mr. Brooks believes those reviews were false or defamatory, he has every right to file a separate lawsuit. Today's hearing is about one question, and one question only. She paused. Was this money alone? The attorney realized there was little more he could argue. He quietly sat back down. Judge Judy turned toward Emily. Ms. Carter, I also want to address your actions. Emily looked nervous. I understand how betrayed you felt. After waiting nearly 2 years without receiving your money, anyone would be frustrated. However, posting emotional reviews online wasn't the best decision. Emily nodded respectfully. I know, Your Honor. Looking back, I should have handled it differently. Judge Judy appreciated her honesty. But poor decisions made after someone breaks a promise do not erase the original agreement. Emily quietly replied, Yes, Your Honor. Judge Judy then faced Daniel once again. What troubles me isn't the fact that you borrowed money. She folded her hands. Businesses struggle every day. Companies fail. Investments don't always work out. That's part of life. Daniel listened silently. But according to your own testimony, your business didn't fail. She looked directly into his eyes. It succeeded. You admitted earning approximately $400,000 in profit. The audience became completely silent. And despite that success, Judge Judy continued, you still refused to repay the woman who believed in you before anyone else did. Daniel swallowed hard. I was dealing with other financial obligations. Judge Judy shook her head. No, Mr. Brooks. You were choosing your priorities. She held up the transcript of the voice recording. Let's remind everyone exactly what you said. She slowly read the words aloud. Emily, thank you so much. I promise I'll pay everything back once the business starts making money. Judge Judy placed the paper back onto her desk. Those aren't vague words. They're not suggestions. They're not wishes. They're a promise. The courtroom remained perfectly still. Judge Judy continued. In business and in life, your word has value. Once you stop honoring your promises, people stop trusting you. And trust, once broken, is one of the hardest things to rebuild. Daniel finally spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. I made a mistake. Judge Judy nodded. Yes, you certainly did. She paused for several seconds, allowing the importance of the moment to settle over the courtroom. Everyone waited. The audience barely breathed. Emily clasped her hands together. Daniel stared at the floor. Finally, Judge Judy delivered the words everyone had been waiting to hear. My judgment is for the plaintiff. A wave of quiet applause spread throughout the courtroom. Judge Judy continued. Mr. Brooks is ordered to repay the full $18,000 to Ms. Carter, along with all applicable court costs. Emily immediately covered her face with both hands. After nearly 3 years of waiting, countless unanswered phone calls, and months of emotional stress, justice had finally been served. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, Thank you, Your Honor. Daniel looked disappointed, but offered no further argument. He understood that the evidence had spoken louder than his excuses. Before closing the case, Judge Judy shared one final message that left a lasting impression on everyone in the courtroom. Money can help build a business, but honesty builds a reputation. If someone believes in you enough to invest in your future, the least you can do is keep your word. She looked around the courtroom. A handshake, a text message, or even a spoken promise may seem small at the time. But inside a courtroom, those promises can carry enormous weight. The audience applauded once more. Emily gathered her documents with a smile she hadn't worn in years. She thanked Judge Judy before walking out of the courtroom, finally feeling that justice had been done. Daniel quietly packed his papers and left through the opposite door, knowing this decision would remain a lesson he would never forget. As the courtroom doors slowly closed, Judge Judy prepared for the next case. But everyone who witnessed this one left with the same powerful reminder. Integrity is priceless, broken promises always have consequences, and the truth eventually finds its way into the courtroom.